And hello, welcome to Solo Playthroughs. We got a double header today because, there's too many games and not enough weeks. And it's just easy to, when I have a game out, just, all right, just do two in a row. So we'll try to do more of these double headers going forward. But this is the first double header for the Arkham Horror, the card game. My longtime number one game of all time has fallen a little bit. We'll see where it falls in my top 10 solo game list that's going to be updated, and I'll have a video out next month. But still, absolutely love this game. I've been playing it a lot more three handed than I ever did. Not three handed by myself, three players, me and two friends. We worked through a couple of the campaigns recently and are actually now working through the Return to. Oh, which one are we playing right now? Return to Dunwich cycle, because one of the guys I never played that. Love going back to some of these old cycles, man. I mean, Dunwich, Carcosa, Forgotten Age really are still where this game is at for me. I like Innsmouth probably the most out of the more recent cycles. The rest of them are just kind of a bit of a mixed bag. Forgotten Age is still my favorite, but I digress. Let's get to the blob that ate everything. For those of you who don't know, I have been doing a cycle, a two-part, a two-layer cycle, I should say. The one layer is I'm doing a cycle of all of these side scenarios. So we are up to the blob that ate everything. So we went through Rougarou, Carnival, Labyrinths, Guardians of the Abyss, Part 1 and 2. Oh, yeah, don't get that one. And then we just did Excelsior Hotel, which is why they consider it the best. I love Blob. Blob is such a really fun, campy B movie awesomeness in all of its glory. I've really kind of taken to games that take some of these old horror genres and like just make really good facsimiles of them in a tabletop game form. And that's, I mean, you look at Dawn of the Zeds, does that with zombie movies. I mean, Blob, it's a blob that had everything straight out of, again, these 1920s, 1930s, black and white. Just ridiculously bad horror movies that are super fun to watch. It's not 1920s, that's probably too old. 1960s, 50s, 60s, I don't know. Somebody who knows more about the history of cinema can tell you about the exact dates of when those came out. 20s is probably a little bit early. Um, Obviously not showing my knowledge of history in cinema to be a little bit lacking. But we also are up to Tony Morgan. Tony is one of the strongest solo investigators in the game, hands down. He comes in with a 3 intellect, which is great. He has a 5 combat, which is amazing. 2 and 2 is where he gets neutered a little bit because they have to kind of keep them down. Again, if you have a really strong investigator in this game, one of the ways that it does seem the designers make that investigator come down to earth a little bit is you give them 5 sanity and you only give them a willpower of 2. You see that with Silas Marsh. You now see this with Tony. Tony's resource generation is great. Not a surprise. He is a rogue. The one thing that is a surprise that makes Tony unique among the rogue class is that agility for him is only a 2. So it makes certain cards like Backstab a little weaker, and it makes certain other things a bit weaker as well to certain other things, certain other rogue cards that really use that agility makes them a bit weaker as well, like breaking and entering. Like those are cards you're not going to take with Tony. Let's go into um, his deck build, and I'm looking at the chat. Cool to see you running Blob. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Blob is such a freaking great game. Really liked it. Was another guest designer on this one. Again, if you go on BGG and look at the credits, you'll always have like the lead designer, then MJ will be there. As like a second designer and so forth. But yeah, this these side scenarios have just been so good. As like the campaigns have been like hit and miss for me a little bit, the side scenarios have just been awesome and really love what they're doing there. The question is, how often do you get them into your campaigns, right? Sometimes it's not really worth it, and the risk reward is what it is. I actually did want to build up a deck more. What's the word? There's a word I'm thinking of. Not like because again, when you're doing a one-off, you could either build a deck and then add XP up to like the first 9 XP is fine. 10 to 19 XP, you have to add another basic weakness. 20 to 29 XP, another basic weakness, and you can do that up to 49 XP. I did want to be a little more organically in how I built this deck, so I am going through the Edge of the Earth campaign. This is the first time I'm playing the Edge of the Earth campaign true solo, so this will not be the standalone settings for the Blob That Ate Everything. This is going to be, I did spend 2 XP to do this in the middle of my Edge of the Earth campaign. Thematically, how does this fit? I mean, unlikely that Tony got called back from Antarctica and the Mountains of Madness to take care of what's going on in Arkham. But thematically with the side scenarios, I mean, you could always be like, well, he's just, now stuck in the Mountains of Madness and he's remembering something that happened, in the past, and now we're kind of going through that, and it is what it is. However you want to make it work, but it's a super fun scenario. But you will see it's going to be a little weird because I do have 6 frost tokens in my chaos bag because that's how that campaign is going for me. But I do have no trauma because Tony's an absolute beast and his high combat really helps in the Edge of the Earth. So some of these I do have some story assets from Edge of the Earth. Again, when you're playing as part of an existing campaign, what you do is you keep the chaos bag from the campaign, you keep your deck as is from the campaign, and you just spend a certain amount of experience. All of the side scenarios can be thrown into a campaign except for Barkham, which I'm going to do at 4 o'clock today, assuming this is done. Might be like 4:15, but probably get to 4. And you cannot do Labyrinths of Lunacy as a side scenario in a campaign. That has to be only in standalone, either in epic multiplayer mode or in a single table mode. So Tony Morgan is the bounty hunter. Tony's tracked down low-life scum in every lousy corner of the world, but nothing could have prepared him for the thing he killed in Innsmouth. It had the form of a man, more or less, but it was covered in loathsome scales and slime, like some horrid creature of the deep. It stank of salt water, rotten fish, and blood. He should have let it go when he dove into the river, but he'd never let a bounty escape before, and he wasn't about to start then. Ever since, he's found a new kind of dirtbag to hunt. Ordinary mobster or otherworldly monster. Tony will take it down if someone is willing to pay him for it. Dun dun dun! Tony comes into play with his bounty contracts. It is a permanent card. It is for the Tony Morgan deck only. It has 6 bounties at the start of the game. After an enemy enters play, you have the option to move 1 to 3 bounties from bounty contracts to that enemy to a maximum of that enemy's health. After you defeat an enemy with 1 or more bounties on it, move its bounties to your resource pool. Again, it's how he generates resources. I literally have 0 emergency caches or caches, however you want to say that, in my deck because I have other ways of getting resources with Tony Morgan. The Elder Sign effect for him is +2, place a bounty on the bounty contract. And then his special rule is he can take an additional action during his turn, which can only be used to engage or fight an enemy with 1 or more bounties on it. That is an amazing ability. It's especially useful on like Dunwich, where you have all those freaking annoying whippoorwills. Hey, put a bounty on it, you get an extra action, engage that whippoorwill, and then with your 5 combat, you can just take it down even with the -1. It's a really, really strong investigator in there. So, and then the flavor text here is when I find that beast, I'll put him down for good. Again, this deck is all sorts of weird because I have a bunch of story assets in it, and then we even have some Tekka Lily cards. What's a Tekka Lily card? Yeah, it's a special weakness that comes from the Edge of the Earth. But let me go through this a little bit. So we have Claypool's Furs. That is a story asset from Edge of the Earth. Basically, it allows us to negate frost tokens as they come out. If you don't know what a frost token is, well, it's kind of like a curse token. What's a curse token? A curse token, I don't even know why I'm going the back doorway. Curse tokens were introduced in the Innsmouth conspiracy cycle. They were basically, when they're revealed, it's -1 revealing another token, but then the curse token comes out of the bag. The frost tokens expand upon the curse tokens, and that when they come out, it's -1, except they don't come out of the bag. They go back in the bag, and they're permanently in the bag until you can do certain effects in between scenarios, so maybe gets rid of some, or even in some scenarios, maybe gets rid of some. But if I pull a second frost token in the same pull, I automatically lose, so it virtually becomes like a tentacles. The ability to cancel that's pretty huge. I have 24 tokens in my bag, 6 of them are frost tokens. That means 1 out of 16 times, naturally, I'm just going to have like another auto lose, which is bad. It can really mess with the math. So having something like Claypool's Furs is really important to give me some chances to get rid of that. Also, because of let me kind of talk about this synergy right here while I'm thinking of it. Since I have, where are you? And I forget your name because you're relatively new and I can't remember all this stuff anymore. All right, Lonnie Ritter. Lonnie Ritter, you can exhaust Lonnie Ritter and spend a resource, choose an item asset, heal a damage from it because she's a mechanic, but it has to be an item asset, and then you can heal horror from her. You cannot just heal a horror from her unless you have an item that has damage on it. So having Claypool's Furs, which just gives me an item that has the ability to put damage on it without it going away. Like I can put damage on the fine clothes, but then they come out of the game, right? Because there's only 1 damage. That's really helpful. and it's a nice synergy there to give me some more horror soak because I don't really care about the damage soak as much. Although in Blob That Ate Everything that might change, but I do want to have a horror soak, and that's where Lonnie is awesome if she has, but she needs an item to heal her, right? So she's an interesting card. It takes a little bit to get set up, but if you can get that set up, that's a great synergy there. All right, so we have Narrow Escape. I Tony's deck building, I should have said when I was at the back here. So a deck creation, you choose a secondary class, Guardian, Seeker, or Survivor, and then you can take up to 10 level 0 through 1 events or skills of your choice from the secondary class. I chose Survivor as my secondary class. I find Survivor the most the best synergy with the rogue class. I mean that's true for anything. I mean Survivor is usually the best synergy for a lot of classes in my experience. So then we have like Narrow Escape. Look what I found. I have Savant, which is a really nice little 1 XP rogue card. Savant gains wild icons equal to your lowest skill other than the skill being tested. So that basically is going to allow me to add 3 wilds. Because we already have the 1 wild here. It's going to get 2 more wilds because my lowest skill is either going to be willpower or agility. So that's basically another 3 wild. It's a 3 wild card that can be really, really strong. Say Your Prayers in case I get if I get 2 horror on me, then Say Your Prayers will be able to be used. Ellsworth's Boots are a story asset from Edge of the Earth. Somebody's looking at my story assets being like, uh-oh, things aren't going really well for you. You might say that. I have about 3 of them in here, I think. So for anyone who's played that, you'll know how I got those. We have Contraband, allows me to double the amount of ammo on a asset, which is really nice. Live and Learn, Perception, A Glimpse of Hope. I love the Glimpse of Hope thing. So Glimpse of Hope is a myriad card. So each card counts as a slot in your deck, right? So it does take up 10% of your deck at build if you're taking this in scenario 1. Or 11% if you count like your unique assets and and unique card and the basic weakness and whatever. But after you commit it to a test for the wild icon, it will go in your discard pile. And then as an action, you can only play this from your discard pile, but it costs 1. You can take all of the Glimmer of Hopes in your discard pile and put them in your hand and then play them again. So as for their icon. So it's a really nice way that if I get all 3 Glimmer of Hopes in my discard pile, I can take them back for the cost of 1, and then I will have 3 wild icons to commit to other tests, right? So it's all about cycling that, and with, again, Tony's research generation, it shouldn't be a problem. I have Act of Desperation. I love that card, especially with Tony's Long Colts, which you'll see. Scout Ahead, well connected in case I get like Lone Wolf out. I start really churning out some money. Well connected to come in handy. Another Heavy Furs, so that's cool. We have High Roller, which is an XP card. Ace in the Hole, which is an exceptional 3 XP card, so it costs 3 experience to get. We have Haste. Haste is a really fun card. Takes up an arcane slot. You don't really care about those when you're the rogue class. After you perform the same type of action twice in a row, you can exhaust Haste, and you can take the same action again. And that includes Activate, Engage, Evade, Fight, Investigate, Move, Play, Resource, and Draw. The Activate part of that card is like almost brokenly good. So if I have like 2 different assets, say I have like a gun out that had an Activate arrow on it, and I had a lockpicks out which has an Activate arrow on it. I could activate the one card, shoot something, activate the other card, investigate, and then activate and do another activation right after that. It's pretty wild how that works. It's just one of the strange rulings there. I have an intel report. Here's Tony's Long Colt. So the Long Colts are his unique asset. He has 2 of them. After you play Tony's Long Colt, play another Tony's 38 Long Colt from your hand at no cost. It's unlikely I'm going to get both Long Colts in my hand at the same time, but if I do, and I have a hand slot open, or I have something in my hand that I'm not that afraid about losing, I get to play both Long Colts at once. The Long Colts are going to synergize with your bounty contract. So I can spend an ammo, I get +1 fight per each bounty on the attacked enemy. So enemy comes into play, I put a bounty on it, and now I get +1 fight. If I defeat an enemy with at least 1 bounty on it, I get to place another bounty on bounty contracts. So it's a nice way to keep your bounty contracts full. We are definitely going to want our bounty contracts to be full over the course of this scenario. Trying to think anything else that's worth highlighting. Obviously, I have the upgraded Switchblade. We got Leo DeLuca, although I'd actually prefer Lonnie Ritter for this scenario. I got a Miasmic Crystal, which is a story asset from Edge of the Earth. Watch this. Back to level 0 elusive. Crystallizer of Dreams is a build that I find really interesting with Tony. Number one, because so the Crystallizer of Dreams, if you don't know, so you put this in play, and then it puts this Guardian of the Crystallizer into your deck. When this comes out, now you have an enemy that comes into play. That could work really well if I'm trying to get extra money, because now I can put some bounties on the Crystallizer, the Guardian Crystallizer, I can kill it, and I can get those resources, and now I have the Crystallizer of Dreams. The interesting thing about the Crystallizer of Dreams, and you'll see I do have a pretty inordinate amount of events in my deck, is when I play an event, I could put it under the Crystallizer, and then I could use that event later to commit it to a test for the skill icons. So there's a nice little synergy there. It hasn't been as effective as I had hoped in my build, but I could have leaned into it a little bit harder, but we'll see. If I get this early, I'll put it out because it's worth it just having those extra icons, but if I don't get it early, I'll probably just end up throwing that away for the willpower icon at some point. Tony's weakness, I find one of the most inconsequential weaknesses in the game. So it's Tony's Quarry. It comes into play in the farthest location, and you put a Doom on it, and you put a bounty on it. You just hope it comes out when the agenda is going to advance anyway, and you just don't have to worry about it, because honestly, usually it's not worth the actions to get to Tony's Quarry and kill it, especially in a true solo game, because it's going to take you an entire round's worth of actions to get there and kill it. So you might as well just like lose the round if you're going to lose the round, and it is what it is. I think probably kind of one hand the number of times I actually kill Tony's Quarry. It doesn't happen very often. We have the green soapstone. It's another story asset from the Edge of the Earth. If that comes out, I'll explain what that does. We have Dire Sketches, story asset from Edge of the Earth. Momentum's a fun little skill card. I have another Crystallizer, Unexpected Courage, Scout Ahead. This is the last card I'll talk about because I really love the flavor of this card. So this is the Edge of the Earth really brought in a lot more dual class cards, and they're from the XP. So we had the dual class cards introduced, I think, in Dream Eaters, and then they had like individualized like XP paths. So you would have like a Guardian Rogue card, and then you would have like an upgraded XP card for the Guardians, right? But here you have the Quick Draw Holster, so it's a Guardian Rogue card. It costs 4 XP. You choose a firearm asset taking up only one hand slot, and you put it in your play area, and then you attach to the quick draw holster. So say I have a gun out, I get my holster. I put my holster in play, and now I can put the gun in the holster. Exhaust quick draw holster, I can perform a fight action on the attached asset without playing its activation cost. That can be really strong. Obviously, if I have my furs out, I'm not going to really want to put the holster out because the holster is also going to take up a body slot. But worst case scenario, I just, throw this away I just use this for the 2 agility icons. So I have 24 XP in this deck, so I'm over halfway through the Edge of the Earth. So that's, really where I got all that XP. And I had to spend 2 XP on entering this scenario. My weaknesses aren't terrible. I just have the one basic weakness, which is drawing the sign. Put drawing the sign into play on your threat area. Your maximum hand size is reduced by 5. If that comes out late, honestly, with Tony, if I'm set up, I'll just kind of let that ride. So that's my basic weakness. Then I have Tony's Quarry, and again, I might get the Crystallizer of Dreams out. If I do, then I'll have to deal with the Guardian as well. So this is a bonded card. This starts out of play. It will come into play if I put the Crystallizer in play. That's me yammering about my deck. Phoenix Knight, Technology cards are very annoying, as are Frost tokens. Yup. What's up, Eric? How are you? Yeah, I've been surprised. I did one run through of this off camera, and I was wondering how 6 Frost tokens are going to play in this scenario. There are a couple of cards. There's a couple of encounter cards that the Frost tokens make a little bit weirder, but I'll explain how I'm going to approach those when we get there. Yeah, it's going in. It's only 1 out of 16 times you're pulling Frost. And if I have Claypool's furs out, then I can obviously really reduce that as well, or even just the regular furs out. So the Frost tokens ended up being not as much of an issue as I feared they might be, but they're definitely a thing. Having 6 of them is interesting, but again, you have 6 Frost tokens in there, it's, I don't know. I guess there's no. I was thinking maybe you pull the tentacles less, but actually it doesn't make sense because you have to pull a non-Frost token before the test ends anyway. So yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's a very full chaos bag here, and I have a ton of cards in this deck with all these story assets. So that's going to create definitely a wide amount of variance. I've said this before, I am not someone who takes a lot of doubles in my builds. So when I have a deck this big, it does mean that every scenario, it's just going to really depend on what cards I pull based on how I want to approach that. Hopefully I just get either the Switchblade or one of my Long Colts out early, so at least I have a weapon and can start, you know, making some monsters pay. What's going on with the Blob That Ate Everything? Well, let me get my handy dandy Blob That Ate Everything book. It came from outer space. Yes, it did. Let me see if there's some narrative. So there's a couple of new keywords. Blob X is a keyword. When you defeat an enemy that has Blob X on it, you do that much damage to the subject 8L08, the extra spatial anomaly. So there are two versions of the subject 8L08. There is one for a single table version, and there's epic multiplayer version. The single table is actually harder, in my experience. So this is a monster ooze elite. He has plus 15 health. Plus he has 15 health per investigator. So he has 30 health. If we do 30 health to him, he would be defeated, and then we could proceed to resolution 2. So that is our goal in this game, is to put 30 health on this dude. And again, every time we defeat an enemy that has a blob something keyword, generally every time, there's some exceptions to that, we can put some damage. We can put an equal amount of damage to whatever the blob X is. So we put X damage onto subject 8L08. I'll read this flavor text first before I read the flavor text on the agenda. I have everything set up. There's some extra cards up here that are set aside, like all these Migo cards. There's like a secondary, symbol. So anything with that symbol comes out. Like what's the encounter set symbols? There's one copy of Cubic Ooze, one copy of Grasping Ooze, and 2 copies of Ooze Wraith that are out of the game to start. And then we have the Vulnerable Heart, which starts out of play as well. That's all done. I do need to set up the locations. In the center of our board, we're going to have the crater, and then we're going to take the research site location and the temporary HQ. We're going to shuffle up these quarantine zones, and we're going to add 2 of them to those 2 cards that I just mentioned. Now we're going to randomly put them next to the crater in orthogonal directions. I'm just going to roll a die here. Bam, 2 will go north, and then we'll just go around this way. Boom. 5 is there. Boom, boom. So we have quarantine zone, research site, and temporary HQ. We're going to now take the fungus mold card, and we're going to get 3 more quarantine zones, and we're going to randomly put them around in orthogonal directions again. So we'll shuffle that a little bit. We put a 2 up here. That's just a quarantine zone. Is that off the board? Nope. Think we're good. It's lots of locations in this scenario. We're going to roll that. 6. Quarantine zone. So the fungus mound is down here, and then the last quarantine zone here. And now we have 5 quarantine zones left. I'm just going to randomly put them in these corners. Ding and ding. And then this last quarantine zone, if you did this right, you'll have 1 left over. That comes out of the game. That's done. The investigators begin play in the temporary HQ. At first, few were allowed near this military encampment, a large black tent is set up in the center of the open field, with eyes on the rest of Blackwater. Military trucks are parked outside, though the encampment itself is suspiciously lacking soldiers. You hope the situation hasn't spiraled completely out of control, though you suspect otherwise. Shroud value is 2, clue value is 0, and then there is an action on there. We can spend 1 countermeasure to choose 1, heal 3 damage, heal 3 horror, gain 5 resources, or draw 3 cards. I do like to get the 5 resources quick, but we'll see how I play that based on my opening hand here today. I think there's also, so in a single player game, we put 1 countermeasure on the scenario reference card. I'll just put it up here on the act, because scenario reference card is under that little graphic there. So that's not going to work. I want to shuffle the rest of the encounter cards. Still looking for some flavor text here. I wonder if I missed it. I don't think I missed it though. Bam. So the encounter deck is shuffled. I'll put this over here on this side of the screen. Nope, I must have missed it. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Flavor text, the Blob That Ate Everything. Incident report 8L08. Thursday, 07/05/1928, Blackwater, Massachusetts. 0312 hours. Impact event just outside of Blackwater. Intercept a police call. Agents sent to investigate. Interviewed local farmer Ron Graham claims meteor was several feet wide, greenish hue. Crater roughly 100 yards in diameter. Radiation detected in outlying area. Recommend immediate quarantine and further observation by research team. Situation under control. Let me look at the comments. Frost tokens do not play at all with Jacqueline's character. Weakness is finding out the hard way. Oh, yeah. I mean, Jacqueline's a trippy way to play the game. I love the Mystic class. I think it's one of the strongest classes for me personally. I think it's super strong true solo. I have found that where the Mystic class is gone with like looking at multiple tokens. Oh no. Hit. And it's bro. It's a problem with the Italian to me, man. My arms start flailing and we we have some problems. All right, disaster averted. All right, so I just find like the looking at multiple tokens is just not how I like to play the game, but it's a thing, and I get why some people like it. But I kind of like the old Mystic class. If I'm playing Mystics, I prefer to play with like Father Mateo or Jim, than to deal with like look at 7 tokens and see, and cancel and this and that but yeah, it's definitely a thing. And with Jacqueline, I could see her being really kind of tricky to play with Edge of the Earth because it just changes the math on her so much. All right, so that's fine. Making sure this camera's good. It's not as standard as it was, but it will do. Great. So it wasn't under control. That was a report That was the report the G-Men took when they first arrived. For the next few days, the town of Blackwater was on lockdown. The impact was all that was talked about in the papers, but not much was known aside from the enormous crater and the effect it had on the countryside. Nobody was allowed to leave the town, and only those approved by the shadowy government agency were allowed to enter. Those unfortunate few included high-ranking government agents and a team of researchers from the nearby Miskatonic University, who were summoned to investigate the meteor itself. For the rest of the town's inhabitants, it was a strange occurrence, nothing more. That is, until the meteor hatched. I saw it with my own eyes. When the anomaly emerged, the first thing it did was devour the team of researchers who had been sent to collect and study samples from the meteor. The next thing it did was devour their lab equipment. Then Ron Graham's tractor. Then his house in its entirety. It continued to grow and spread, devouring everything in its path. I barely escaped with my life. When the army arrived, they thought they could kill it with bullets and shells. Everything they threw at the creature was devoured, one round after the next. Then it split into hundreds of smaller pieces of itself, and the army was quickly overwhelmed. While the battle raged on, myself and others back in town saw lights and shapes in the sky above. Something was up there, waiting, biding time. The quarantine still holds, and we're stuck in the middle of it. It won't be long before the anomaly has grown large enough to devour everything in Blackwater. And if that happens, who could possibly stop its rampage? Oh no, it sounds scary. I'm moving this up a little bit. Ugh, why am I messing with this? Why am I doing this? Live shows, people. Something new every time. Alright. That's good. Yeah, it felt like it was just looking over, just didn't feel like it was super stable. And I'd rather take care of it now than deal with it later. So I'm going to have to keep this book nearby because there's some encounter cards that are going to make me deal with that. We have this, and now I can read the flavor text on the agenda. The anomaly spreads. You were in the town of Blackwater when the impact event occurred. For several days you investigated the matter until the anomaly emerged and all hell broke loose. Fleeing is no longer an option as the quarantine still holds and is strictly enforced. The only way you're getting out of here alive is if you can find a way to kill the anomaly, if such a thing is even possible. Each location is connected to each location adjacent to it orthogonally. Then I will put this, does that fit here? Look at that. It's a beautiful fit. Put that down here. And then we have the act. Expose the anomaly. At the start of the round, investigators may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance. Beware, advancing will expose the anomaly's weak spot. Be ready for a fight. Okay, I will. And again, I'll just put the one countermeasure that I start the game with there. Let me stop. The falling camera is always fun. Yeah, it's great. I'm just hoping the camera doesn't get devoured by the blob before the scenario is over, because that would be really hard to stream that way. So I'm going to pull up to my hand limit, which is 5. My starting hand, which is 5. Again, I can do the full mulligan. So we have Claypool's Furs, which I like. We have High Roller, which I really like. And then we have Switchblade, which I love. That is a strong opening hand. So I'm going to put aside Active Desperation. I'm going to put aside Scout Ahead, drawing 2 more. Green Soapstone, oh, that's excellent. And one of my Glimmer of Hopes. I could not have asked for much better of a draw there. Now, if I could just find Lonnie Ritter or what's her name? Or what's his name? Or Leo, that would be money. Maybe a Lone Wolf could really go a long way as well. I guess I'll hold on. Yeah. All right. So my first hand, my first round, so investigation phase for the first round, I'm going to play Claypool's Furs. I'm going to play High Roller. That's 4, so I have 1 resource left. And then I'm not going to put Switchblade in play just yet. I find that it's better to hold on to Switchblade. I guess what I'm questioning right now is, do I spend this countermeasure to get 5 resources? Or do I just kind of let that ride a little bit? Because again, if I'm going to spend the countermeasure, I have to do it there. I'll hold on to the countermeasure for now. Let me move. I don't want to move into the fungus mound. I don't want to move into the crater. This is my 3rd action. Actually, Claypool's Furs is a fast card. So I actually have 2 more actions. That's super strong. So I will move to this quarantine zone. Very little of Blackwater has been left untouched by the anomaly. Yoink. Shroud value 3, clue value 1. There is so I'm using upgraded tokens for pretty much everything, except I'm going to use the original clue and doom tokens. I just find that they're much better for the camera especially. So choose an exhausted manifold enemy at bridge and test intellect X, where X is the enemy's evade value. If you succeed, defeat the chosen enemy. That's probably not going to be a thing that I'm going to do. Not really set up to investigate the bridge. So with my last action, I'm going to put the green soapstone in play. It comes into play with 4 charges. I'm just going to use the arcane charges tokens that I have here. And when I perform a successful attack, I can spend 1 charge, exhaust the green soapstone, and I deal +1 damage for that attack. That could really combo well with the switchblade, which is still in my hand. I'm going to finish my turn. We go to the enemy phase. There are no enemy phase. We go to the upkeep phase. I'm going to draw a card. We have ace in the hole, and I get a resource. I'm up to 2 resources, and now we go to the Mythos phase. I'm putting a Doom on the agenda. The Doom threshold is 6. I can actually bring this sucker down here. It's probably better. And I'm going to draw on a counter card. What is it? It's an Oozling. The Oozling spawns in any empty oozified location. So you'll look at these locations. So all of the quarantine zones are oozified. The fungus mound is not oozified. That will come into play later. So I can put this thing here. Yeah, we'll put that up here. I'll probably want to kill it. The Oozling comes in with 3 health. It has 2 combat value, 2 evade value. Instant report 8L08 BCDE, continue 21-24 hours. Subject has escaped captivity, lab compromise. It has a blob 1. So I'm going to go to my bounty contracts. I go from you start with 6, I'm down now to 5, and I'm putting a bounty over on the Oozling. What are the chances I successfully investigate this? They're not great. My first action, I'm going to take a resource, and now I'm up to 3. And now I'm going to use this high roller to investigate. I'm going to spend the 3 resources. I'm just going to put them right on high roller so I remember what I'm doing here. And so this is, again, my second action. I'm investigating the bridge. I get +2 to my skill value for this test. So now I'm now a 5 to a 3. I'm going to commit Glimmer of Hope. I am now a 6 to a 3. Come on. So again, Glimmer of Hope is an event. I'm using it for its skill icon. I'm trying to get my first clue because clues are important. Oh, tentacles! That's a good way to start. That's great. So that's out. I lose my 3 resources. Oh no. That's not good because now I can't even put my switchblade in because I don't have the moolah. So with my last action, I'm just going to get a resource. Enemy phase, he stays there. Upkeep phase, I draw a card. It is Dyer's Sketches, and I'm going to take a resource. Yikes. Mythos phase, I'm going to put a second Doom on the agenda. We draw another encounter card. It is Replication. Find the manifold enemy with the most damage on it. Discard cards on the top of the encounter deck until another manifold enemy with equal or lower printed health is discarded. Spawn an enemy at the same location, then distribute the damage that is on both enemies so that the remaining health of both enemies is equal as possible. If no enemy is spawned by this effect, Replication gains Surge. So that's the only manifold enemy with health on it. I'm discarding until we get another manifold enemy. Yoink, yoink. That has more health. Equal or lower printed health. There's gotta be another oozling. Man, I'm going through all these cards. I'm basically just looking for another oozling at this point. Here we go. And it goes to the same location. I'm going to put a bounty on that. And that is done. So, not super ideal, but I think it just makes this turn a little bit more obvious. So I'm going to go here. These both engage with me. This reveals. Water Tower. It comes into play with one clue. It has a Shroud value of 4. If there are no clues on Water Tower, I can test 3 Intellect to find the structure's weakness. If I succeed, I can deal 3 damage to each ooze enemy at Water Tower and each connecting location. Well, it's going to be a really... I would have to get that clue and do that test, and obviously I'm surrounded by oozlings. So that's not going to happen. I'm now going to spend a resource to put Switchblade out. That's fast. And see if I can't defeat both of them. So I spent one action so far to move. My second action that's going to attack, again, putting Switchblade in, was fast. So I'm attacking with a +2 because this is the upgraded Switchblade. Again, it costs 2 XP plus 1 XP because it was on the errata list, the taboo list. If you use that, I do. So 5 plus 2, so 7 to a 2. I'm attacking the oozling. If I succeed by 2 or more, I get to do an extra damage. So 7 to a 2. This is my second action. 7 to a 2. All right. -4. So 3 to a 2. I succeed by 1. So I'm only doing 1 damage. Pulling real good. Now remember, I have a extra action that I can only use to attack or engage an enemy that has a bounty on it. So I have 2 more actions. I'm going to attack the oozling again. I'm doing a 7 to a 2. 7 to a 2. Frost token number 1, 6 to a 2. Frost token number 2, I'm going to put a damage on Claypool's Fur to cancel that. This is going really well, guys. I mean, it's Arkham. Hey, -1. So 7 to a 2 becomes a 6 to a 2, and -1 becomes a 5 to a 2. I succeed by 2, so I do 2 damage instead of 1. This oozling is defeated. I get a bounty. I get that bounty back as a resource, and I do 1 damage to subject 8L08. Oozling goes to the discard pile. And now I have this last oozling, and I have 1 more action. Oh, and I put that in there, and that goes there instead. Let me just dump these out. So now I'm attacking. It's going to be a 7 to a 2. Hopefully I succeed by 2, and I can use the green soapstone to actually kill it this turn, which would be super nice. 7 to a 2. What do we get? -1. I succeed by 4, so that's 2 damage with Switchblade. I'm going to exhaust the green soapstone, use one of those charges. I do an extra damage, 3 damage. Oozling is defeated, and that's another damage to 8L08 because again they have the blob keyword. I get this bounty, so that gives me 3 resources, and that worked out fairly well. Cool. Enemy phase, upkeep phase. You ready, green soapstone, draw a card. It is drawing the sign. Take a resource. I might go ahead and get rid of that now because it's a little early in the game to be having that. Mythos phase, third Doom on the agenda. And drawing in a counter card. It is Cubic Ooze. I guess I'm just fighting enemies, which is fine because I just get to start ticky tack, putting some ticky tack damage on 8L08. That will come in handy later for sure. So, Cubic Ooze. Immediately attempt to evade Cubic Ooze without spending an action. If you fail, spawn Cubic Ooze, engage with you, and it immediately attacks you. That's unfortunate. So, I'm definitely going to fail this unless I pull the Elder Sign. I did not. -5. I can choose to discard of the 5 cards in my hand. Subject 8L08 devours each of those cards, and I get +1 skill for this test for each card devoured this way. Nope, that's not going to work. So Kubagooz does not come into play exhausted, and instead immediately attacks me, and I'll just take the 2 damage. Now, I'm also going to put a bounty on him, so I'm fortunately getting a little bit low on bounties here. A little early for that to be happening. And I'm going to go ahead and attack the Cubic Ooze. I'm attacking the Cubic Ooze with my Switchblade. It's going to be a 7 to a 1. Frost token, -2. I succeed by 2, so that's 2 damage, or 2, or at least 2. And my second action, remember I'm going to have an extra action because that first I get a free action because I attacked a enemy with a bounty on it. 7 to a 2. Nice. I succeed by 2 or more. This is defeated. I get this resource. That's Blob 2, so that's 2 more damage on 8L08. Out. Again, having a combat-oriented investigator is huge for this scenario. I actually have 2 more. Actions. I'm just going to get rid of drawing the sign. I could have probably played around it, but at this point I had the actions. Let's let me get rid of it and just won't have to deal with it because otherwise it might come bite me at the worst possible time, right? So enemy phase is done. Upkeep phase, we draw a card. It's Savant, and I'm going to take a resource. So it's pretty cool that like I haven't drawn especially well. I lost High Roller, but I'm already back to 6 resources. I mean, you see those bounties, how they really add up. I got 3 resources just from killing 3 enemies already. We go to the Mythos phase. It's the 4th Doom on the agenda. So I am 3 for 3 and getting a new enemy. Remember, one of them came from that replication card. So what happens now? I get Consuming Maw. Yikes. Test Agility 3. Take 1 damage for each one you fell by. Subject 8L08 devours each card defeated by this effect. Well, I'm probably just taking 2 damage here. 3 damage here. It's not ideal, but I don't think it's worth trying to defeat this. So the jaws of slime close around you, enveloping you in alien acid. 2 to a 3, bam, -0. So I only fell by 1, so I take 1 damage. So I pulled the skull. Skull is -1 for every 5 cards. Subject 8L08 is devoured. He has not devoured any yet, so I am up to 3 damage on Tony. That is out. I need to get clues because I have gotten exactly 0 clues, and that's the problem. I could draw cards with dire sketches. Yeah, I think that makes. I'm gonna do that next turn because then if I actually pull, if I pull Tony's quarry, then the round's going to advance anyway. So I think strategically that makes more sense. But I definitely want to get a clue here. So Greg, get a clue. 4, 3, 6. Yeah, let me try to get this clue off the water tower. So I'm going to commit Savant. I'm going to play 3. I'm going to spend 3 resources on High Roller. So I have a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember, Savant's going to give me my lowest other skill value. So I'm just going to add my agility value. So I add 2 to the 1 wild that's already there. So I'm doing an 8 to a 4 for a clue. Bam, Frost token, 7 to a 4. Another Frost token. I'm going to cancel that on Claypool's Furs. This would be super bad. -1. I succeed. Claypool's Furs coming in huge. So I get this clue. And since I succeeded, I get those 3 resources back. And High Roller stays exhausted until the upkeep phase. I have 2 more actions. I know there's a clue for the taking there, but I probably want to stay. No, I want to get to the research site because that's where I can spend clues for countermeasures. So I will just keep moving this way. What do we get? It is the oozy lake bed. After a manifold enemy spawns at oozy lake bed, place one clue on oozy lake bed. This enemy cannot take damage this round, so there's no clues there. I have one more action, and with that last action, I'll just go to the research site. Research site says the wooded clearing is where the research team from Miskatonic University just began to study the meteorite and its impact. Now only a handful of scientists remain because they were all devoured people. That's right. So huddled inside white tents and toiling quietly to find a way to stop the anomaly from spreading any further. Shroud value 2, clue value 0. I can spend 2 clues to gain a countermeasure. I can spend 1 countermeasure to place 2 clues on the research site. It's a little bit tempting, but probably self-defeating. Enemy phase, that will go there. Upkeep phase, I ready high roller. I also draw a card. We get Lonnie. Ooh, yes. That I like. We take a resource. Lonnie is coming into play for sure. Mythos phase. 5th Doom on the agenda. Encounter card. It is Sticky Feet attached to the nearest oozified location. So I can put it here or here because they're both equal distant. As an additional cost to enter or leave the location, an investigator must spend an action. So it basically costs 2 actions to get in there. I can spend a countermeasure while I'm there to discard Sticky Feet. I'll just put that over there. So it's a good thing that I was not at an oozified location because then closest location was adjacent as opposed to where I was at. My turn. I'm going to spend 2 on dire sketches, so I'm down to 5 resources. I now draw 3 cards. That is a fast action, so this does not count as one of my 3 actions. I get unexpected courage, I get intel report, ooh, like that, and I get contraband. Great. I'm going to spend 4 resources to put Lonnie into play. Move all these over. I should high roller and green soapstone will go on the other side of the fungus mound. Do it this way. Put the Claypool's furs next to Lonnie. So Lonnie cost me 4. She gives me +1 to my combat value. And again, when she has some horror on her, I'm going to go ahead and start spending a resource to not only heal the horror on her, but heal 1 damage off the Claypool's furs. So that was my first action. Again, because the dire sketches is fast. My second action. Definitely need some more resources. My second action, I'm going to go to quarantine zone. Shroud value 2, clue value 0. It's another oozy lake bed. And my third action, I'll go to this quarantine zone. Shroud value 3, clue value 2. That's what I'm talking about, especially since I have a intel report in my hand. I can spend 4 resources to get both of these clues. After I discover any number of clues from slimy streets, reveal that many random tokens from the cast bag. For each skull or auto lose that is revealed by this effect, you take 1 damage or 1 horror. That's the end of my turn. My first action was play Lonnie Ritter. Second action, I moved. Third action, I moved. Enemy phase, no enemies. Upkeep phase, I draw a card. It is Act of Desperation, and I get a resource. Mythos phase, 6th Doom on the agenda. Agenda card, agenda advances. What do we have? From the center of the crater. Looking at exposing anomaly, so that's a start of the round, the effect, not the end of the round. Interesting. A lead line of glowing ooze worms its way underground. Cracks appear in the ground throughout the town like tendrils reaching out to stake their claim on Blackwater. It is as though the creature is rooting itself into the earth as it grows. Will the world ever truly be rid of it? Choose 2 oozified locations other than the crater without a copy of the vulnerable heart. Subject 8L08 devours both of these locations. I'm going to choose this one and this one. Along both locations, along with all non-ooze cards after those locations, ooze enemies are instead discarded. So these 3 cards are all devoured by subject 8L08. And I'm going to start keeping a running tally of how many cards the subject 8L08 devours. We are now up to 3. Again, that interplays with what happens when I pull a skull. Shuffle 1 set-aside copy of Cubic Ooze. So we have this up here. along with one set aside copy of Grasping Ooze. We have that there. And we're going to shuffle those 2 cards along with the discard pile and reset the encounter deck. We now go to Agenda 2. Agenda 2 says the anomaly swells. The creature from inside the meteorite continues to digest Blackwater whole. By day 2, nearly all the town is covered in vibrant green slime. Acid slowly eats away at the buildings, the streets, and even the dirt. Will it ever cease? Each location is connected to each other location, adjacent to it orthogonally. This is now shuffled. This goes here. We're still in the Mythos phase. I draw my encounter card. Oh boy. And I just get the cubic ooze back because I haven't defeated an enemy in 2 rounds, so it's clearly time. The cubic ooze, I'm going to try to evade it. It's not going to work. I'm going to take 2 more damage. I might be using this countermeasure to heal 3 damage over a temporary HQ is how this is looking right now. Bam! Ooh, cultist, what happens? If this token is revealed during an attack against an enemy, that enemy gains retaliate for this attack. It's not an attack against an enemy, but I take 2 more damage because this thing attacks me immediately. And now he's engaged with me. My turn, attacking with a switchblade. So I have a 5, 6, 7, 8 to a 1. My first action, -5. I guess it becomes a 3 to a 1. Still succeed by 2, so that's 2 damage. And cubic ooze fighting. Oh, I put a bounty on this sucker. So I only have 2 bounties left. Definitely want to get my long colts out. So my second action, or pull the elder thing, but again with 24 tokens in this bag, that might be hard. -3 after the skill test ends. Subject 8L08 devours each card that was committed to this test. There was no cards committed to this test, so that's 2 more damage. This is defeated. I get this resource. And cubic ooze is, and I get 2 more damage on subject 8L08. I'm going to use one of these big boys over here. We're up to 6. Of the numbers. You sure like cubic ooze? I love cubic ooze. It's delicious. It's part of a nutritious breakfast. Alright, so this dude's dead. Yoink. And we already have 6 damage on subject 8L08. So that was 2 actions. I have 2 more actions, which is awesome. I'm going to grab a resource, give me up to 4 resources, and then I'm going to spend those 4 resources with Intel Report to discover 2 clues at my location. Again, Intel Report is discover 1 clue at your location for 2, or I can change that to discover 2 locations by spending 4. You could also change it to spending to 6 resources to get 2 clues from a location up to 2 away. So it's a really cool, flexible card, very rogue, because you're just paying for a testless, just a testless result. Basically a testless investigation. Man, wondering. I don't like the fact that I'm a 5 damage. I could just spend this countermeasure down here. I think that makes some sense. Heal the 3 damage and put me back in a really. It'll put me in a much better place. I could have put 1 damage on Lonnie. That makes some sense. Okay, so when I took that 2 damage, I'll take. Is that better? That's probably better. Yeah, I'll just put 1 damage on Lonnie. I do want to get some horror, so I can put that on Lonnie and start healing up these Claypool's furs a little bit. We go to the enemy phase. We're done. Upkeep phase. I draw a card. It is Scout Ahead, and I take a resource. At the beginning of the round, I could spend these 2 clues. I have the Switchblade. It's not crazy. Yeah, let's do it. Beginning of the round, I'm going to spend 2 clues to advance the act. Remember, I still have this countermeasure on there. And what does it say? If this is the first time the act is advanced, read the following. You've seen the anomaly's true heart. It lies beneath the surface of the ooze, pulsing with unseen power and guiding its myriad forms with alien hunger. You suspect this organ, whatever it may be, holds a secret to destroying the anomaly once and for all. Regardless of how many times this act is advanced, read the following. After hours of investigation, you believe that you have pinpointed the creature's heart. Due to the way it shifts throughout the surface of its all-encompassing body, you know for sure it won't stay at its current location for very long. Then you'll have to track it down again. Choose any oozified location. Spawn the set-aside vulnerable heart enemy at the chosen location. Oh, wait. When I discovered those two clues, I should have revealed two. Let me just do that now. If it's a skull or auto-lose, it is not. So sorry about that. When I played Intel Report, I needed to do that forced ability there. So just took care of that now. So choose any. So spawn a set-aside vulnerable heart at the chosen location. I'm going to choose Slimy Streets, because why not? Slimy Streets. So the vulnerable heart comes in. It's massive. Retaliate. X is so its fight value is X. X is the amount of damage on vulnerable heart. Vulnerable heart cannot be evaded and cannot make attacks of opportunity. Vulnerable heart cannot have more than 15 damage on it at one time. All excess damage is canceled. Great. We're gonna go to Act 2. Extraterrestrial physiology. The creature's heart is exposed. Now is your chance. After any amount of damage is placed on vulnerable heart, place twice that much damage on subject 8L08 as well. There is a triggered ability here. While an investigator at your location is attacking vulnerable heart, spend one clue. That investigator is +2 combat for this attack. At the end of the round, you must advance. So again, that was the beginning of the round. We now go to the mythos phase. I put one doom on the agenda, and then we're going to grab a encounter card. Please do not be another cubic ooze. Alien Food Chain. Ooze. Powerful. If there are no manifold enemies in play, Alien Food Chain gains surge. There are no manifold enemies in play. The vulnerable heart is not a manifold enemy. We get this. Consuming Maw. Test 3 agility. Take 1 damage for each point you fail by. Subject 8L08 devours each card defeated by this effect. Well, not great. I don't know if it makes sense to try to commit too much to this. And then he'll devour it. I mean, I have enough. I mean, 3 damage wouldn't be awful. Really just want to take some horror, which is really crazy that I just can't seem to get any horror on me. Alright, we're going to just go with it. Yeah, take 3 damage. I use a countermeasure to heal at temporary HQ. Oh, by the way, when Vulnerable Heart came into play, I would have put a bounty on it. It is an enemy. And now I'm testing a 2 to a 3. -2, I take 3 damage. I'm up to 7 over here. I have Lonnie as a backup. I have Claypool's Furs, but yeah, it's definitely looking like healing at the temporary HQ is going to be important. So I'm going to attack the vulnerable heart. I'm attacking with the switchblade. It's going to be a 7, 8 to a 5, 6, 7, 8 to a 0 because there's no damage on it. So anything but the auto lose or 2 frost tokens. So that's 2 damage because I succeeded by 2 or more, and then I do 4 damage to subject 8L08. So subject 8L08 is up to 10. I'm now attacking vulnerable heart again. I'm doing a 7 to a 2 now because there's 2 damage on it. Remember that first action didn't count because I still have 3 actions up because I have an additional action on my turn because I attacked an enemy with a bounty on it. So 8 to a 2, -3, it becomes a 5 to a 2. I succeed by 2. I can put 2 damage on it. I'm going to exhaust the screen soapstone and spend one of those charges. I put another damage on it, and that allows me to put 6 damage on the 8L08. So he's up to 16, or that's up to 16. That thing up there is up to 16. Awesome. If I attack again, it'd be an 8 to a 5. I'm going to commit unexpected courage. A 10 to a 5. Can I succeed by 2? Actually, let me save unexpected courage. I'm going to commit act of desperation. I don't really have another asset that I want to throw at this sucker. So it's going to be a 10 to a 5. Minus 3. I succeed by 2. 2 more damage. And that's going to be 4 more damage to 8L08. So 8L08 is up to 20. And with my 4th action, again, because I had 3 attacks in a row, if I had haste out, that'd be really nice. I'm just going to move. The vulnerable heart, again, does not make attacks of opportunity. So I'm moving to this quarantine zone. It is the sewer. I can test 1 intellect. If I succeed, move up to 1. I can move at the X locations away from sewer, or X the amount you succeed by. Oh, that's really gross and really thematically clever. The sewers intersect throughout Blackwater. Though you would not relish the journey, you could use these passages to move unhindered from one section of the town to the next. That comes into play with 1 clue. So that worked out well. Next turn, I just need to get the temporary HQ and spend that countermeasure to heal 3 damage, and I will feel a lot better about where I'm at. We go to the enemy phase. Enemy phase is done. We go to the upkeep phase. I'm going to do ready, green soapstone. I draw a card. It is say your prayers, and I take a resource. Say your prayers is useless because I have taken 0 horror, which is really annoying. We go to, I mean, normally I would be whining about taking horror, so I guess I can't complain too much. We go to the mythos phase. Well, at the end of the round, I have to advance, so we're going to advance the act. And then we say mere minutes after its exposure, the pulsating heart retreats back into the creature's vast body, but not before we did an insane amount of damage to it. You'll have to wait for it to reemerge in order to harm it once more. Remove all damage from the vulnerable heart instead of the side out of play. The amount instead the vulnerable heart aside out of play. So this bounty just goes away. I just use that to get an extra action on it. And then this goes away. If X is at least 1, X was 7, read the following. All around you, the anomaly reels back for a moment. Then it erupts into the sky in a massive geyser of anger and hate. You duck for cover as gobs of ooze slam into the ground all over the city, splitting into even more sentient masses. Shuffle the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. And discard cards from the top until manifold enemies with a total of at least X health have been discarded. And that health amount, again, is 7. One at a time in a random order, spawn each of those enemies at a different oozified location. I don't understand why the random order matters, because they're just different oozified locations. It's not like they're starting with the ones closest to you. Like, it just is what it is. So basically just put them in oozified locations wherever the heck you want. Yeah, something's weird about that wording. That probably is supposed to be more limiting that it reads, but it is what it is. So I'm just going to get 7 health worth of enemies. That is not an enemy, not an enemy, not an enemy, not an enemy. There are enemies in here, I promise. We've seen a bunch of them. It's nuts. Okay, what is happening? Wow. Alright, so that's 3 health worth of enemies. That's 8 health worth of enemies. We have a grasping ooze and an oozling. In a random order, I'm going to spawn them. Doesn't make any sense. I feel like I'm missing something when I'm reading this, but that one over a time, spawn each of the locations at a different oozified location. Yeah, whatever. I want to put the grasping ooze is a hunter, the oozling is not. Yeah, I still don't understand those instructions. I'm going to put the oozling here and put a clue on it. And then, because again, it's a manifold enemy appears at the oozy lake, place 1 clue on oozy lake bed. The enemy cannot take damage this round. And I'm going to put this one here. And then we go to Act 3. Blackwater's Bane. You may have managed to finally harm the creature directly, but in doing so, you've caused it to split even further. Each ooze enemy gains Retaliate and loses the Blob X keyword. So if I kill one of these suckers, it doesn't do any damage to subject 8L08. because it loses the blob keyword and now it gains retaliate. So obviously not trying to mess with them too much. The good thing is if and when I kill the grasping ooze, and actually speaking of which, I'm just going to add a bounty on that sucker. And I'm out of bounties, which is unfortunate, but just the way things played out. I just never got my long hold out there. At the end of the round, you must advance. So I have one more round. I have one round to advance, and then they'll gain the blob keyword again for the next round. So that was the end of the round. We now go to the Mythos phase. We're putting the second Doom on the agenda. And this is almost guaranteed to be an enemy because I went through an entire deck without pulling many enemies. No! Ooh, yes, give me some horror. That's what I'm talking about. So test 3 willpower. I'm testing a 2 to a 3. I take 1 horror for every point I fail by. That's fine. I could definitely take some horror here. Bam, frost token. That's a -1. I'm not going to cancel it. -4. So I failed by 3. I'm going to put 2 horror on Lonnie and take 1 horror on me. We now go to my turn. I'm going to, first thing, spend a resource to exhaust Lonnie Ritter to heal Claypool's furs a damage and heal her a horror. So she's a mechanic and she just finds it very soothing and psychologically good for her to fix things, which is awesome. My second action, I'm going to move to temporary HQ. My first action, that's not an action. My first action, I'm moving to temporary HQ. My second action, I'm spending this countermeasure to heal 3 damage. And that's not limit once per game or anything. It just basically, you have a countermeasure, feel free to go and spend it. Do need to get another clue somewhere. Yeah, High Roller hasn't really been that effective. Well, I mean, losing that one time and just losing all of those resources wasn't great. I could investigate. Could just throw in Contraband. I have one more action. The best place for me to get a clue does seem to be here. It's only a 3. Not totally ready to take on Grasping Ooze, but I do want to. It's fine, so I'll just end up at the bridge. Enemy phase, Hunter keyword triggers. He'll go there. Upkeep phase, I ready this. I draw a card. It is the Crystallizer of Dreams. Definitely not going to put that in play this late in the game, or unless it's like really early in setup. It doesn't make any sense for me to use that now. And I take a resource, so I'm up to 2 resources. Yeah, Lone Wolf would have been really helpful this scenario, especially with High Roller. So at the end of the round, I have to advance again. What do we have? If this is the first time the act is advanced, read the following. Throughout your struggles, an alien presence has watched over your progress with curiosity. Now they descend from orbit in order to hatch their plot. Shuffle each of the set-aside Mego drone enemies into the encounter deck along with the encounter discard pile. So we're shuffling the encounter discard pile a whole lot, kids. So we're going to take the 3 Mego drone enemies along with the encounter discard pile, and we're going to shuffle this all together. We're going to, regardless of how many times this act has advanced, read the following. As the hours pass, the ooze seeps back into the ground and lies dormant once more. I'm going to place 1 clue per investigator on each revealed oozified location to a maximum of its clue value. This will go here, and we're going to put 1 clue here. We're up to the clue value on every other oozified location, so that's the only clue that gets placed. And then the lead investigator chooses a random set-aside story card and draws it, revealing the Part 1 story. So there are 4 story cards with this side scenario. I'm rolling a die. I rolled a 5, not helpful. I rolled a 1. Diffuse the explosives. Oh, this isn't happening. This is not the one I wanted. And then we're going to, at the end of this, we're resetting to Act 1. Great. So, story, part 1. You are approached by a military officer who informs you of the military's plan to destroy the anomaly using explosives. I tried to tell them that it won't work, but the general was too stubborn to listen, he explains. The explosives are in a timed fuse. If they detonate, it will only split the creature further and make it harder to destroy. Orders be damned, we have to stop them. Revelation. Spawn the set-aside Mego Meddler. Mego Meddler, where are you? It's unfortunate because you can get some cool like story assets if you succeed in doing one of these stories, but yeah, this one was not happening. Maybe I can actually get a victory point. So while the Amigo Meddler is ready, it gains at the start of the enemy phase. Amigo Meddler is at a location with explosives. Remove 1 damage from the military's plan. Otherwise, Amigo Meddler move Amigo Meddler once toward a location with explosives. Fine. The military's, and then we're gonna put this card and the set aside the military's plan. The military's terrible, terrible, no good plan. We put that into play next to the act deck. We're going to put 5 damage on the military's plan. The military's plan says the following: horror tokens and locations represent explosives. Each location with explosives gains an ability. Test intellect or agility 3. Neither one of those are great for me. If you succeed, remove the horror token on this location. At the end of the round, remove 1 damage from this card. So force, if there are no explosives among locations in play, remember that the explosives were defused. Flip this card over. And then if the military's plan has no damage on it, remember that the explosives were detonated. Flip this card over. I'm putting 1 horror on 5 locations. So it's 1 horror on 1. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Place 1 horror on 1 different Uzuvai location. So it's 1 per investigator. So it's only 1 investigator. So that's only 1 different Uzuvai location. It's still going to be rough. It's a lot more doable though. It's a lot more doable than I realized. I was putting 5 before. Really want that clue too. Maybe. There are no explosive locations to play. All right, I will try it. Why not? Do something fun. All right, so that's put in place. So if I can get this horror off, it's different Uzufai locations, and it's not. Oh, farthest from the crater. Farthest from the crater. Yikes, that has to go there. Place 1 horror token on 1 investigator, different Uzufai locations, farthest from the crater. Horror tokens on location. All right, so that's going to be in that quarantine zone there. All right, that's not great. But I think I can backdoor this anyway. That's going to go over there. Amigo Meddler. There's definitely something about this scenario that you definitely need to read. Like, I mean, it's all Arkham, but you just have to read every word so carefully all the time. But that's fine. So I have no more bounties to put on Amigo Meddler, unfortunately. He only has 2 health, though, so he won't be that hard to defeat. I might actually just go down there and just try to wipe him out. But I also want that clue. I want a lot of things. So that was the end of the round. We go to the Mythos phase. We put a Doom on here. So now we're back to expose the anomaly. So if I get 2 clues, I can advance at the beginning of a round, and I can start attacking the vulnerable heart. I just need to do 10 more damage to subject 8L, which means I only have to do 5 more damage to the vulnerable heart, which with the Switchblade isn't that hard. Encounter card, what is it? Cubic Wave of Ooze. Ooh, I don't want that much horror. I like the horror, and now you're giving me a lot of horror. So I can test willpower 3. That's fine. I mean, I can put 1 more horror on Lonnie Ritter, and then I'll have 2 more horror on me, and then I could heal Lonnie again. So I'll have some possibilities. I'll throw in the Crystallizer just in case they get lucky. So I'm testing a 3 to a 3. Ooh, -5. That didn't work. So I failed. I'm going to put 1 horror on Lonnie and 2 horror over here. Yeesh. Alright, I'm going to spend a resource. Exhaust Lonnie, heal. My furs are fully charged again. I'm going to commit contraband. I'm testing a 5 to a 3 to try to get that clue. This is my first action. -2, I succeed. I pulled a cultist, so I get this clue. My second action is I'm going to play Scout Ahead. I can move up to 3 times. Enemies do not engage with me during this movement. I'm going to go to the Fungus Mound. Strat value 5, clue value 0. I can spend a countermeasure to choose a Migo enemy at my location. Test 0 intellect. For each point I succeed by, deal 1 damage to the chosen enemy, maximum of 5. The mound is covered by a thick purple fungus, its fleshy tendrils digging into the ground and surrounding trees. What in the hell is this stuff anyway? Good question. And now with my last action, I'm going to attack the Migo Meddler. It again only has 2 health. I'm going to use my switchblade, so it's 5, 6, 7, 8 to a 3. +1, I succeed by 2, 2 damage. That's a victory point in the victory display. And that's that. There was no bounty on it, so I did not have an additional action to deal with him because there's no bounty on it, and I actually didn't get any resources as a result of killing it either. We go to the enemy phase. The Grasping Ooze is going to move down here. Upkeep phase, we're going to ready Lonnie. I draw a card. It is What's This, and I'm going to grab a resource. Mythos phase, putting the 4th Doom on the agenda. Victory display, we'll just put that over there. Put it underneath the blob. Or the blob. Drawing, so the fourth Doom on the agenda. Counter card. Oh, end of the round, remove 1 damage. And ooh, Wave of Ooze again, back to back to back. Well, now this time I can commit Say Your Prayers. So I'm doing a 2, 6 to a 3. I'll make it a 7 to a 3, and I'll spend What's This, see if I can't double that money. Because I definitely don't want to take any more horror. I have no damage on Claypool's Furs, so I can't heal Lonnie anymore. So 7 to a 3, let me succeed by 1. Ooh, Frost Token. 6 to a 3. 0. I succeed by at least 1, so I get that dollar back, that resource back, and I double it. And I succeeded, so this goes away. I have 2 clues. I think I just try to... shoot. If I perform an attack against Grasping Ooze using a melee card, subject 8L08 devours it. So that's super bad with Switchblade. I'd be losing my Switchblade, so that's like a non-starter. It's really where I needed one of my guns to come up. But that did not happen. That's rough. Three actions. I'm going to... I forget what happens if I succeed with this explosive stuff. Could just advance and try to kill this thing once for all with the Switchblade, but I kind of want to finish the story now that I realize it's a lot more doable than I realized. My evade is garbage. Let's see if I can't get a gun out here. I'm going to draw a card. It's Perception. Don't mind that. Draw another card. To Tekalili. Place one of my clues on my location. That's unfortunate. I like that a little bit less. And then put this on the bottom of the Tekalili deck. So basically, back in Edge of the Earth, this is going to go on the bottom of that deck there. And then my third action, I'm going to draw another card It is Elder's Boots. Limit 1 footwear per investigator. After the last clue is discovered from my location, exhaust Elder's Boots, move to an continuing location, or discard Elder's Boots to move to any revealed location. Well, I'm not going to be able to get that clue back. Let's just try a value of a 5. Grasping Ooze is going to move. And then I draw an encounter. I draw upkeep phase. I draw a card, Lone Wolf, and I'll take a resource. I'm up to 3. Mythos phase, 5th Doom on the agenda. Encounter card. Test 3 agility. Take 1 damage each point you fell by. This could actually work out decently well. So I will be doing a 2 to a 3. 0, I only fell by 1, so I'm going to take a damage and put that on Claypool's Furs. My turn, I'm going to spend a resource, exhaust Lonnie, heal Claypool's Furs, hear the horror off of her. That Tekka Lily was really nasty. I could just sacrifice my Switchblade here. I have 3 actions, 4 if I attack the Ooze. But I would need to get everything just right. We can do a 5 to a 3, 7 to a 3. So let me not do that just yet. I'm going to undo what I did with Lonnie. Give the horror back to her, the damage back to the Claypool's Furs. My first action, I'm just going to try to evade this sucker. So my first action, I move here. The Grasping Ooze engages with me. I'm going to spend the 3 to put this on High Roller. That gives me +2, so the 4 to a 3. I'm going to use Unexpected Courage. Nope. I'm going to use Ellsworth's Boots and Lone Wolf. It's too late to get... I might actually use Lone Wolf. What's that? 6 to a 3. Nah, I gotta pass this. 7 to a 3 against Grasping Ooze. Now let me get a little... I'm gonna gamble a bit. So we're doing 6 to a 3 against Grasping Ooze for an evade. Come on, don't fail me now. -4 now would be brutal. Oh my gosh. How? How do I do it every time? There's like 1 -4. The chances of that mattering was so small, but I lose my resources. Oh, I have 1 more action. And now I have to commit all of this. So 5 to a 3 to try to evade this dude. I'm here. Wow. 5 to a 3. I just never got my gun out either. Come on, 5 to a 3. Let me get lucky. There you go, a 2. So I succeed the hard way. This is going to exhaust there. I'm going to play Ace in the Hole. I have 3 more actions. Oof. That was vicious. I'm going to go 1, 2, and then 3 into this quarantine zone. Shroud value 3, clue value 2. And then, so 1, 2, 3. So those are all my actions, and this guy's just going to ready, and we'll see if I can't take care of that next turn. That's not oozified. Yikes. Alright, enemy phase, upkeep phase. I draw a card. Another heavy furs. I take a resource. Can't play a loss with high roller again. This guy readies. 6 Doom on the agenda. Agenda advances. As the anomaly spreads throughout the town, the cracks in the earth become more prominent. In the middle of the night, a terrible sound like a growling stomach rumbles beneath the ground. Green ooze begins to erupt from within the cracks. Oh, this also goes away. Green ooze begins to erupt from within the cracks, overflowing throughout the town. It is clear now that no quarantine can hold this creature. It has not stopped here. It will surely spread throughout the world. Choose 2 ooze of locations other than the crater without a copy of Vulnerable Heart. Subject 8L08 devours both. Now, I could have just let 8L08 devour that, but it just felt cheap, so just do it the hard way, right? Yeah, that's fine. I also need to get a clue anyway. So these will go away. I'm going to discard the ooze enemy because I wouldn't mind if he comes out again. He's pretty easy to defeat. And then these 2 locations go underneath subject 8L08. So he's up to 5 things. This clue goes away. When we shuffle, we add both copies of Ooze Wraith. Ooze Wraith is nasty, nasty. And we're going to shuffle this deck again. So the anomaly consumes. By the 3rd day, the anomaly threatens to overtake the quarantine zone. The acid within its body can devour not just creatures, objects, and buildings, it also is capable of consuming thoughts, concepts, emotions, or other aspects of reality. You realize now that the creature threatens not just the lives of all humanity, but the fabric of existence itself. Dun dun dun. So that's shuffled. And that will go there. And that will go there. Encounter card. Taking damage, I think. So testing a 2 to a 3. It's consuming Maw. -1, so I fell by 2. So I'm going to put another damage on Claypool's Furs. Put another damage here. I'm going to use Lonnie's ability now to heal that 1 and heal Horror from her. So that cost me a resource. 5 to a 3 with Perception. I'm going to draw a card. Ooh, that's helpful. Draw a card. Momentum. Ooh, that's nice. And I will take a resource. Enemy phase, this guy goes here. This is in the discard pile. Upkeep phase, ready, Lonnie Ritter. Draw a card, Crystallizer of Dreams. The other one, take a resource. Mythos phase, first Doom on the 3rd agenda. Draw a counter card. It is Corrosive Slime. Test 4 willpower. For each one you fail by, he devours either one card, one of your resources, or a random card from your hand. Oh, random is super bad. But I can give it 2 resources. It's really gross. So 3 to a 4. This would be a good time for the Elder Sign. I mean, I'm just saying. Oh, nope. Down by 2, so I lose by 3. Because of a 3 to a 4. -2. It's not throwing an attack on an enemy. So I'm going to lose 2 resources. And then I lose a random card from my hand. I'm going to roll a die. I rolled a 3. Perception is out. Oh, that's so bad, man. That's awful. I should have just let the ooze thing just make that go away. Oh, this is also gone. So we're actually running out of towns. Running out of turns. Wow. Draw a card. It is quick draw a holster. I'm drawing a card. It is live and learn. Great. I'm going to do this test over here. Ooh. I can do it. It's either agility test too. That could be strong. Quick draw holster doesn't make any sense. I don't have the money for it. So I'm testing a 2 to a 3. I'm planning on failing. It's my 3rd action. 2 to a 3. 5, I definitely fail. I add live and learn. That makes it a 4 to a 3, and then I'm going to commit quick draw holster. That makes it a 6 to a 3. Again, a -4 would be absolutely brutal, but that only happens once a game, right? Bam! Frost token. Oof. I will cancel it, because I'm going to cancel it. We're back to a 6 to a 3. I have this other heavy fears in my hand. I mean, I don't like canceling the first one, but I really have to pass this. -3. Oof, glad I did. -3 after the skill test ends. Subject 8L08 devoured each card that was committed to this test. So this was the one that was committed. Live and learn was played. So that's up to 6 cards up here. But I successfully got this horror off of this location. The explosives were diffused, and I get to flip this card over. If read only the explosives were diffused, thanks for helping me, the officer says. Once the job is done, I'll make sure our remaining forces know that the conventional tactics are useless against the creature. Perhaps there are other ways we can assist. Put the set aside Lieutenant Wilson Stewart story asset into play under any investigator's control. Remove the military's plan from the game. Add Migo Medler and this card to the victory display. Each investigator heals 1 horror and gain a countermeasure. Oh, that's super nice. Yeah, that will definitely do the trick. That goes there. Migo Medler was already added. And military plan is removed from the game. And we're looking for the Lieutenant Stewart story asset. So, exhaust Lieutenant Stewart. Discard a card from your hand or from the top of your deck. Then for each willpower icon, you get +1 for your next test this round. For each intellect icon, you can draw a card. For each combat icon, you heal 1 damage or horror from him. Or each agility icon, you gain a resource. So bye-bye, Lonnie. Thank you so much for your hard work. But I will take the Lieutenant, and I really love that countermeasure as well. I think we can just go ahead and finish this dude off. Now that I have that done. Enemy phase. This dude comes here. Upkeep phase. I draw a card. It is a Glimmer of Hope. Do I have another one in my discard pile? I do. And I take a resource. Mythos phase. Second Doom on the agenda. Encounter card. Alien Food Chain. If there are no manifold enemies in play, Alien Food Chain gains Surge. There is a Grasping Ooze. So he's attached. He heals fully. He gets +1 fight and +1 evade and gains Hunter. Well, it's already a Hunter, but that is going to make getting rid of him that much harder. I need another clue so I could advance the act. Yikes. I could do it this way. Yeah, let me do it this way. I'm going to move here. And then with my second action, I'm going to move again. So the crater. The impact site is a barren farm in the center of the quarantine zone. A ramshackle homestead lies nearby, mostly consumed by globs of green ooze. Smoke still rises from the center of the crater where the alien meteorite sits. A soft green glow emanates from within, a harbinger that something here is not quite right. You think? So this goes here. This guy's engaged. He would have done an attack of opportunity, except nope. I cancel that. Yeah. I'm going to do a regular attack at the 5, 6, 7 to a 2. 6, 7 to a 3, 6, 7 to a 4. And we'll make it an 8 to a 4. I'm not using my switchblade because I do not want that to be devoured. So 8 to a 4 for a damage. I can make it a 9 to a 4. That will be fine. 8 to a 4 for 1 damage. I pulled that. It's -1. I succeed. I'm going to use a soapstone and get 2 damage on this guy. Oh, and actually, I didn't need to commit that. Never mind. Well, I might as well just commit it anyway. No, I won't commit it. Because, remember, I had the +2 because of narrow escape. So I do 2 damage with soapstone, and then I'm going to spend a countermeasure while I'm in the crater. So that was a free action. So I moved, and I'm doing a free action now. I can spend one countermeasure to deal 3 damage to 8L08 or a manifold enemy at any location. So that is going to take an attack of opportunity. So I'm going to take 2 horror. I'm going to put 1 on Lieutenant Stewart and 1 on Tony Morgan. And then I'm going to do 3 damage to a manifold enemy. I've defeated him. I get that resource, and that's going to be 3 more damage on the blob. Or subject 8L08. Dude is super dead. And now that I ended my turn in the crater, I can, at the end of the round, each investigator at the crater takes a damage. So I'm up to 6, but I'll just put it on Lieutenant Stewart. At the end of my turn, though, I can discard a card from my hand, and for each icon it has, I can heal a damage or horror from him, or I can gain a resource. I will heal a horror from Lieutenant Stewart by discarding a combat icon. I will just discard this A Glimmer of Hope, because again, I can get it back in my hand by spending a resource, and so we healed this horror. So definitely still have a little bit of horror soak, which I'm going to need to finish this off. Still missing a clue. I just need one more clue so I can advance the act and just defeat the vulnerable heart. Again, we're very, very close to wiping out subject 8L08. Gonna draw enemy phase, no enemies, draw a card. Tony's quarry, whatever. Farthest from me, we'll just put it in a fungus mound. It's about where he exists. We put a bounty on him from the supply, and we put a doom on him as well. Remember, I'm not going to have any more extra actions. I'm out of bounties. I have not pulled the Elder Sign once. We put the 3rd doom on the agenda. It is the 4th doom in play. Encounter card. Encounter card, not investigator deck. Oh, wait. Right, I drew that. I do get a resource as well. All right, that's fine. Replication, find the manifold enemy with the most damage on it. Discard cards from the top. Blah, blah, blah. If no enemy spawned by this effect, this gains Surge. Again, there are no manifold enemies in play. What is this? It's got me. Perfect. Revelation. Put It's Got Me into play in your threat area. At the end of the round, place 1 resource on it. Then if there's 6 more resources on it, you get devoured. We don't have 6 more rounds, so that's a great time to get that. I just need to get 1 more clue, advance this sucker, and end it. So let me go up to 1, 2, at Uzi Lakebed. Going to put 3 on High Roller. Can I please one time just pass this test? I'm going to get a 5 to a 2. Oh, man. 5 to a 2. For a clue. Bam. Oh, Frost Token. 4 to a 2. Yeah, I'm not gonna get rid of Claypool's Furs. There's way more important times where I could do that. 4 to a 2. Oh! I would lose the resources. Alright, I'm gonna cancel that. Put this back in. 4 to a 2. Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. 4 to a 2. Hey! Elder Sign! Hey! I succeed. I get a bounty. I get this clue, which is everything. That's a huge Elder Sign. Oh, that's so great. I get this 3 money back. Fantastic. Enemy phase. No enemies except for Tony's Quarry, who's aloof, who's just chilling. Upkeep phase. I draw a card. I ready this. There's haste. I take a resource. Beginning of the round, I go 1 more round and make sure I'm set up for this. So I'm not going to advance. Meet those phase. I'll do it next turn. Meet this phase, I put a Doom here. Oh, this countermeasure was spent, by the way, because I used it on the crater. So that was really nice. I forgot you get a countermeasure when you finish those story assets. What is this? Caustic Dissemination. Put Caustic Dissemination into play in the next agenda deck. At the end of the round, each investigator at an oozified location takes 1 damage and 1 horror. Subject 8L08 devours each card defeated by this effect, and then we discard this. So that's actually perfect. So really good encounter cards to end this. I'm going to now move to research site with my first action. Oh, there should be 1 resource on. It's got me 2. I'm going to put this Heavy Furs in play. Tempted to put haste in play, but I think Heavy Furs is more important. Just being able to cancel those silly frost tokens. And then I have 1 more action. I'm just going to take a resource. Meet enemy phase, upkeep phase. I draw a card. Ooh, Glimmer of Hope. Oh, I could have grabbed all those from my discard pile. I don't think it's going to matter. Take a resource. At the beginning of the round, I am going to spend my 2 clues, and we're going to advance. This goes away. I'm not on the oozified location. I'm at the research site. Advance this. Choose any oozified location. Spawn the set-aside Vulnerable Heart. There. Vulnerable Heart, where are you? Did I put that back in the deck? Nope, I didn't. I was going to say, that would be silly. I'll put it up there, because I can. And meet those phase. 5th Doom on the agenda. 6th Doom in play. This would have gotten another resource. Encounter card. Don't screw me. Ooh, location with the most clues. This goes on Slimy Streets. It is a Migo drone. And it's other than the Fungus Mound, which makes sense. Surge. Oh, it surges. At the start of the enemy phase, Migo drone is ready. Move 1 clue from Migo drone's location to Fungus Mound. That's interesting. And then Corrosive Slime. Test. 4 willpower. That's fine. I can lose all 4 of my resources. I just won't get High Roller, but I don't think I'm going to need it anyway. So I'm testing 2 to a 4. 2 to a 4. Ooh, Frost Token. -1. So I failed by... I was minus... Yeah, so the -1. So... -1 was... Yeah, I failed by 4. So I lose all 4... care about these cards. I'll lose. Could just get rid of those cards, get the +2 that way. Now I'll fail by 4 and just lose those resources. That'd be great. So I put this bounty on the Vulnerable Heart. Out. My first action, I'm moving here. It's massive. My second action, I'm attacking with the Switchblade. So it is a 5, 6, 7 to a 0. And I'm going to commit momentum to make it an 8 to a 0. This is my, again, first action. My second action, but it's a free action because there's a bounty on there. -3. After the skill test ends, subject 8L08 devours each card that was committed. Momentum was committed. However, I succeeded by... a 6, 7, 8 to a 0. I succeeded by 8, so I get the next test I perform is the difficulty reduced by X, which is the amount I succeeded, but maximum of 3. So the next test I'm going to perform is again essentially going to be another test against the 0, but momentum is going to be devoured. So we have 7 cards up there. Where is the 7? That did 2 damage. I'm going to use the last soapstone to make it 3 damage. And the 3 damage on the heart lets me put 6 damage on the subject 8L08, which gets it up to 29 health. We're 1 away. My next action, I'm attacking again. It's going to be the same math, 7 to a 0. It's actually a 7 to a 2, but it becomes a 7 to a 0. 7 to a 0. 1 time. Oh, Frost Token. 6 to a 0. -2, I succeed! We do 2 more damage to the Vulnerable Heart. Oh, actually, since I put 3 damage on it, right, X was actually 3, and I still subtract the 3, so it's still against a 0, so 2 more damage on it. That puts 4 damage on subject 8L08. It is dead! We have successfully done this, man. Oh, this scenario is bananas. I definitely could have gone it the easy way and just had the... had the when the agenda advance has knocked out that Uzified location and not worried about it. But it was a lot more fun trying to actually get the intellect up so I could successfully do that. Getting Lieutenant Wilson, that gave me the extra countermeasure, which was huge. It allowed me to kill that stupid grasping ooze without losing my switchblade, which is really important to me because I knew I was needing that switchblade to attack the vulnerable heart one more time. And you just see, like, if you have a strong, like, again, having the switchblade out, being able to do 2 damage with the green soapstone, which again is a story asset from Edge of the Earth, and that becomes 3 damage on the vulnerable heart, 6 damage on 8L08, and you could really get up to that 30 before you know it. But that was really, really cool. It always comes down to the last 2, 3 rounds, especially if you try to do one of those story assets. And you'll see the amount of victory points I have. I mean, we've got 2 there. I'm going to be able to keep Lieutenant Wilson if I want him. I might as well. He could be fun. And then you'll actually get some extra XP as well. So let me go through the resolution. I'm reading R2. So the one thing you didn't see, unfortunately, is I never pulled the reality acid card. So the reality acid card is you actually pull 2 tokens out of the bag, and then you look at this chart. And depending on what you pull, the blob devours certain things. I mean, and some of it's silly. It could devour your cell phone. It could devour your card box. It could devour your like player reference card. Like some of it's really, really hilarious. And I just often I would find that kind of stuff like kind of silly in a way I wouldn't like, but it works for me with this scenario. Is I just think it's really, really well executed. Now the thing is, this chart doesn't include frost tokens. Like frost tokens didn't exist when this game was made, but it says if you ever pull a combination of tokens, you can put them back and draw 2 more. So if you ever pull a combination of tokens that's not on the chart, that is, like honestly, just keep pulling 2 tokens until you find a combination on the chart. I mean, the randomness is exactly the same. Like you're not gonna gain anything by putting them back and getting 2 more. So I think instead of just, especially with 6 frost tokens, you could be pulling 2, 3, 4 times before you finally get 2 tokens that aren't frost. But yeah, what a crazy playthrough that was. So R2 incident report 8L08 continued Wednesday 07/11/1928 Blackwater, Massachusetts 0742 hours. Contact made with redacted subject redacted meteor. Researchers are unsure whether meteor served as an avenue for redacted or as some kind of redacted. Initiated immediate emergency response procedures at roughly 0500 hours. Subject was eliminated by third party. That's right, it was. As per operational protocol, samples have been collected and sent to redacted for further study. Agents are currently scrubbing remainder of subject's presence from quarantine zone. Strongly recommend immediate expunging of previous conflicting incident report. Citizens of Blackwater have been informed redacted, quarantine redacted, contagion of airborne virus redacted, several infections redacted, medical teams en route to confirm. Agents are attempting to meet with unlicensed combatants for debriefing. Due to sensitive nature of incident, recommend release followed by close observation. Story must be kept redacted. Destroy this incident report immediately. Additional instructions to follow. In your campaign log, record that the anomaly was contained. For each of the following assets that are in play, the only asset that we have in play is Lieutenant Wilson Stewart. Any one investigator may choose to add that asset to his or her deck. It does not count toward the investigator's deck size. And each investigator earns experience equal to Victory X, value of each card on the Victory display. That is 2. And then we also get an additional 3 bonus experience as he or she has saved the fabric of existence. So we would get 5 XP. So we spent 2, we netted 3, and then we have Lieutenant Wilson, who actually has a pretty cool ability that I like a lot. I might have to go ahead and get myself a charisma. I have come away from using charisma. I found it like such a crutch in a lot of my deck builds. But with between Lonnie and now Lieutenant Stewart and Leo, it might be time to do that. However, the other reality is that my deck's so big with other assets that the idea of pulling, I mean, I could go a game where I just don't see more than 1 or 2 anyway, so it might not be the greatest use of 3 XP. But I mean, cards I didn't take. I mean, I didn't go with Lola Santiago, who's obviously ridiculously good for rogues. My resource production was a little bit struggling. I never got a Lone Wolf out. Lone Wolf is probably a card I should run 2 copies of, in a lot of these decks, especially if I'm not taking emergency cash. But, I failed High Roller 2 times. I mean, that's 6 resources right there. If I succeed either of those, both of those times, I'm sitting there with 6 resources. That's plenty of resources. And don't forget that I had I think I lost 7 resources from that one encounter card that I kept failing by 4. So, I mean, like, that's 13 resources just wasted into the aether, and we still were able to be more than comfortable through most of this scenario. But it's a good one. Blob is great. I mean, if you're getting into the side scenarios, again, you can't go wrong with really any of them. But I think you find the one that has like the most appeal to you. If you like the bayou and like kind of like the New Orleans creepy werewolf feel, Ruger is great. If you want a Carnival is a super fun. If you want like some like Venice canals monster like that's awesome. um this one is obviously, if you like any like old B horror movies, this is great. So the feel to these is really good. Excelsior is probably the most replayable. You have the most variety. There's 10 different resolutions, which is really nuts. So every time you play it kind of feels a little bit different, and some of the story assets you can get out of that one is just absolutely bananas. It's plus also thematically probably the easiest one to slot into any one of your campaigns. But I really like this. I probably prefer. I've played this epic multiplayer mode once, and it just kind of gets a little chaotic, like tracking math and whatnot. And you don't have that plus 15 health, so it really is. If there's 2 tables, it's 30 health. So it's like 2 tables, 30 health versus like 1 table 30 health is a little weird to me. I kind of get why they did that, because you don't want, like, if there's one really bad table, you don't want that to like ruin the experience for everybody else. But it feels a little bit like So I do think this one plays a little bit better solo, um, or true solo, or even just 1 table than potentially some of the other epic multiplayer ones. Machinations is one I played at epic multiplayer. I haven't played that 1 table yet, so I'm curious to see how I experience that in the 2 different variations. And I do plan to get Machinations on the channel relatively soon. So we only have 2 more side scenarios. We have Outer Gods and we have Machinations of Time, and then obviously I'm doing Barkham today, and then we'll be done. That should get me through all of the rogues except Winifred Habermach. And then whatever the next side scenario that's released is, I'll just put Winifred on the channel whenever that is. Take a little bit of a break from Arkham after we're done with this cycle. So this was it. Anyone that is going to be around in 10 minutes, we got Blob That Ate We have a Arkham Horror coming up. So let me sign off here, take a 5-minute break, and be back. But thank you for joining me. Any questions, comments, epiphanies, put them in the comment section below. And I'll see you all in a few minutes, whoever's joining me again. Thanks for joining me. Happy gaming.